Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1575B, and today's date is May 23rd, 2018, and the title of the episode is, There Are No Coincidences. It has been planned from the very beginning. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are in deep trouble. No pun intended there, but they are panicking, and I know a lot of people saying, well, I don't see them panicking. I don't see them doing anything. You do see them doing things. I mean, do you really think they're going to be running around in the street holding their hands up saying, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I'm going to jail. They're coming to get me. No, they don't work like that. They always think they're superior to everyone else. They think they're untouchable. They think that no matter what happens, you can't touch me. There's no way you can get to me. And this is where they're wrong. This is where they're going to be taken in, or they're going to commit suicide, one or the other. And you can see that Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and the rest, they're tweeting, they're saying certain things, they're making threats, they're pointing fingers. And Comey right now, he's trying to justify the FBI's use of a spy, or what Comey describes it as, and I like the way they changed the words. I guess this is the political correct term. We're not allowed to use the word spy anymore. We're going to use the word confidential human source. That's what spies are today. And he's saying, yeah, we do this all the time. It's to keep tabs on different campaigns, and we had one in the Trump campaign. According to Comey, human sources are tightly regulated and essential to protecting the country. Really? Now, Comey argues that the FBI was totally justified in using a human asset to spy on the Trump campaign as it would any other target, though he completely ignores the notion that if the spy didn't find any evidence of collusion, then what is Mueller doing? Why is he investigating? Because wouldn't that be the purpose of the spy? Or, I'm sorry, we're not allowed to call them spies anymore. We have to call them confidential human source. This story doesn't make any sense. He's backpedaling now, trying to worm his way out of this whole situation. Comey added that it was a dangerous time when our country is led by those who will lie about anything. You mean like he lied about his memo? How he lied, how he gave it to his friend, leaked it to the New York Times. Wow. And he's urging Americans to break out of the bubble and seek the truth. Well, people are seeking the truth. It's just not his truth. That's the problem. Now, Trump is instructing Kelly to get the Russiagate docs released to Congress. And he's telling the Chief of Staff, Kelly, to immediately set up a meeting with the FBI, Department of Justice, and the rest to review the highly classified and other information they have requested. And this is going to be handed off to Devin Nunes, and he's been trying to get this for quite a while, and it looks like, hopefully, these documents will be delivered. And Trump is out there, he's tweeting, he's saying, hey, look how things turned around on the criminal deep state. It's funny how they're using the word, or he's using the word deep state, and you hear it in the corporate media now, the deep state. Before they would never even mention it. And now they are. And Clapper is out there. I remember he lied to Congress about the U.S. surveillance tactics, and then he was caught in the lie, and he had to backtrack on that. And Trump was out there telling Clapper, no, James Clapper, I'm not happy. Spying on a campaign would be illegal and a scandal to boot. And when you hear these individuals speak, like Clapper, Brennan, Comey, and the rest, they speak like they were doing the right thing. That, yeah, this is what we do. We go ahead and we spy. There's no problem with this. There's nothing. There is a problem. It's illegal. And once again, they're caught in this. And you can see that all these individuals, they continually lie, and they don't know how to tell the truth, so they create another lie on top of that lie, and they keep going until the very end. And what will be the very end? Some will commit suicide, some will try to run, maybe some will be brought to trial. But I think most of these people, won't make it to trial. And I'm not saying because they're going to get off. I'm saying because either they'll commit suicide or they'll run, or they'll hide and make sure that no one finds them. And if they are found, I think then they will commit suicide, because I don't think these individuals believe that the American people, the serfs, have the right to judge them, to put them on trial. If it's a military trial, civil trial, it doesn't matter what it is, because we're lowlifes and they're above, and the same laws don't apply to them. And I would be very surprised if we get to the heart of some of these individuals where their crimes are brought out and what they've done. And I think the deeper we go, those people will commit suicide. Maybe the top level, maybe like McCabe, yeah, maybe he'll go to trial. Maybe Page will go to trial. Maybe even Comey. But I think when we start moving down the line, maybe to the Clintons and beyond that, I don't know if they're going to allow themselves to be judged by all of these people. And again, they're gathering the evidence. They're gathering everything they have, because if you don't do this right and you don't set everything up, you can't have any type of trial. I mean, think about it. If you have a Department of Justice with individuals that are part of the deep state, do you really think it's going to be a fair trial? How about with the FBI? Do you think the FBI, with all the deep state players in the FBI, do you think they're going to do a real investigation? So what has to be done in the beginning, and Q has mentioned this many times before, they have to clean house first. If you want a fair trial, you need to remove all of these deep state operatives. There's no other way to do it. You have to do it this way. Now, the deep state, the New World Order, they've been planning on having the entire world under one government and having the entire world under surveillance. And it was recently found out how they were able to fund their spying operation. They were doing it through the Transit Authority. And in Virginia, we've come to find out how the Department of Homeland Security, the TSA, and the intelligence agencies, they were using the transportation funds and their technology and everything they put together to basically spy on everyone. Now, this is how all this came to light. The Greater Richmond Transit Company recently announced plans to install more than 100 live surveillance cameras at stops along a rapid transit line. Now, the GRTC plans to install approximately 4 cameras at 26 pulse stops along Broad Street. The system will be live 24 hours a day and directly connected to the city's 911 facility. The ACLU of Virginia opposes the system, saying that, well, this is going to change the community, and monitoring the community changes everything. And they went on to say that there's very little evidence that this type of surveillance enhances public safety, and there is every reason to think that it inhibits people, that it causes us to behave differently than we would if we weren't being watched, which is true. And actually, these cameras, they really don't stop crime. Yes, they record crime, but the crime already happens, and the individuals get away with it if they're not caught. If they are caught, then they're brought to justice. But it doesn't stop the crime. And everyone goes, well, the cameras are there so people will think twice. Really? People with alarms, people with cameras. There's no one committing any crimes with these devices up and running. That's ridiculous. Of course they are. They can wear a mask. They can hide their identity. They can still commit the crimes. Now, when the report came out, what it revealed was that the federal government is piggybacking onto the transportation system to spy on Americans. Mass Privatel monitors the expanding surveillance state across the U.S., and a recent blog post on its website asserted that DHS and TSA role in turning public transportation into citywide police surveillance network is unmistakable. A 2010 U.S. Government Accountability Office report titled Public Transit Information Sharing highlights the TSA and DHS role in creating a giant public transit surveillance network through various partnerships. The report also reveals information sharing going on between local transit authorities, local law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, and TSA. As we dig a little bit further into this, this is how it works. A private company called IIT operates the PTISAC for the APTA. The company website confirms the whole system operates as a two-way information highway with surveillance data moving back and forth between state, local, and federal agencies. The Department of Homeland Security and TSA continue to develop a massive, intrusive surveillance network built on America's transportation system. A private nonprofit organization administers the system, and a private company actually runs it. This is how they were setting it all up, and as the transportation department continually sets up cameras, they use the funding, they use the cameras to spy on everyone, and they tell you that it's in the best interest for you and you and you, and you use this for 911 because it's hooked to the system. But in reality, that's the cover story. In reality, what is happening is they're just spying on every single person. We see out in the UK, Yulia has given her first interview. It looks like she had a script. She had to read a script. And Russia is out there saying, listen, we need to speak directly to Yulia. She is a Russian citizen, and we have the right to do this. And they're saying it does not discharge the UK authorities from their obligation under consular conventions. The UK is obliged to give us the opportunity to speak to Yulia directly in order to make sure that she is not held against her own will and is not speaking under pressure. And they believe the opposite is happening right now. They're saying that Yulia's speech during the interview and the written statements in Russian and English she signed have raised multiple questions with Russian diplomats. Judging by quite a few elements, the text was a translation from English and had been initially written by a native English speaker. The handwritten letters signed by Yulia in Russian and English confirm this impression. So, once again, the UK is out there trying to say everything is fine, but they still won't let Russia speak to their Russian citizen or the Russian citizen speak to Russia, which is very odd because under the law, they have every right to do so. We see North Korea right now. They are inviting journalists in to watch the breakdown of their nuclear sites. And yes, South Korea journalists, they are invited in also. Even though the corporate media is out there saying that they're not inviting the South Korean media, they're inviting them in to watch what is about to happen. And they're saying that the nuclear test site may be closed on Thursday. And they're saying from today until Friday, this is when everything is going to be shut down. So we'll see how that turns out. We see Syria wants to have talks with Turkey right now. And this is the first time Damascus is desiring to restore ties with Ankara, which is Turkey. And it looks like they want to mend relations. And the question is, why now? Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I just want to talk about this report that Vanessa Billy put out there about the white helmets. And we can see as the terrorist groups are leaving the area and they're being shipped away, the people of these areas and reporters are going into these areas and they're saying that this was a complete and utter nightmare. And the people there are so relieved and so thankful that the terrorist groups, Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, Al-Nusra, and the rest are gone because under their reign, they have spent the last 6 years of brutality, hardship, under the occupation by Al-Qaeda. And they're saying that it was just horrific. Now, they also talked about the white helmets. And they're saying that the white helmet, their center, their control center, well, nobody was allowed to approach it. They told us no individual is allowed around there. And they said they had relatively sophisticated communication systems. They used codes by phone and SMS to relay information to one another. The general of the white helmets went on to tell Vanessa that the white helmets had attempted to destroy all evidence connected to their group before they were evacuated out of the areas. They set fire to their main vehicle storage buildings, and they tried to basically cover everything up. And the civilian said, "We were not allowed anywhere near the White Helmets Center." A local resident told Vanessa that the White Helmets had shot the dog when they departed for Idlib, but it has been used as a guard dog, and as they were leaving, they shot the dog. And they reiterated that the civilians were forbidden from visiting the center. But when you go to the White Helmet site and you go to the About, it says, "We serve all the people of Syria. We are from the people. We are for the people," which is kind of strange because the people are saying we weren't even allowed to go in that area. Many of the other residents say that the White Helmets murdered a driver of one of the fire trucks, and then they stole the truck. They drove around with weapons. They were more like terrorists than they were humanitarian individuals or rescuers trying to help individuals. And most of the time, they didn't do any rescue work. They were the terrorists. And the truth is coming out now. And more of these individuals are going to start to speak up. And this is what the deep state normally does. They give themselves awards to make it seem like they're on the up and up. Think about it. The deep state received what? An Oscar? From the Academy? When you look at all the other deep state players, they always give each other awards to make it seem like they've done great things. They do this to convince you that they are doing great things. But in the back, that's their cover. In the background, they're doing horrific, horrible things. That's why they use the awards. That's why they give it to each other. That's why they did it for the White Helmets. To make you believe, well, if the Academy says, though, they must be a good group. No, they're not. Now, we know that Trump came out and said that he wants to bring the troops home from Syria. And he did this on purpose. Remember, all of this stuff is planned. There are no coincidences. When he says something like that, it's done for a specific reason. And there's many different agendas associated with it. Same thing with getting rid of the Iranian deal. And let's try to tie all this together. And from the information that Q is giving, we can start to see what this plan is. Now, just recently, Putin came out and said, listen, the foreign troops should leave Syria. The U.S., Turkey, and he even said Iran. Iran should also leave Syria. Now, of course, Iran was invited in by Assad, and the Iranian government is saying, well, nobody can tell us what to do. If Assad doesn't want us here, Assad is going to have to tell us he wants us out, which I believe this is where they're headed. Because basically what Putin has just done, he has given Trump a solution to remove the U.S. troops. Think about this for a second. After withdrawing the U.S. from the Iran nuclear deal, which isolated the U.S.-Iran policy from the policies of other U.S. allies, Mike Pompeo came out and demanded all these ridiculous demands. That, Iran stop using terrorists, they remove all their troops from Syria, and he went on and on and on. And most of the people, like myself included, said these are absolutely ridiculous. But there's always a reason why they do this. And at the time I said, he's going to ask for everything. And he threw a lot of things in there, and people are scratching their heads going, why did he do all this? Because one of the demands was for Iran to pull its militias out of Syria. And everyone said, no way can this ever happen. But Putin also said Iran should leave. And for Russia to say this is very interesting. If Russia convinces Assad to have Iran removed, where Iran is no longer needed, Russia, remember, is going to stay and is going to control the area and keep it protected. If this happens, this will allow Trump then to remove troops from Syria. Because right now they're using the excuse, We're in there because we don't want Iran to gain ground. Think about what they've done and how they set this up. They didn't say we're in there because of the Islamic State. They're beaten. They're done. The terrorist groups are being bussed away now. Most of the areas are controlled by Russia, Syria. This is going to give Trump the ability to remove the troops. Because if Iran is gone, there is no reason for anyone to be in this area. The coalition forces, there's no longer any reason for them to be there. This looks like this is part of the plan, and it's a complete setup to get the troops out of Syria. We see that Russia has found NATO weapons in Syria. They found gas masks, they found bombs, they found other things, and it looks like NATO is supplying gas masks to the terrorist groups for chemical weapons attacks, because a lot of the equipment there have been used for chemical attacks, and we know that they supplied different weaponry to the coalition forces. The same thing with the US, same thing with Israel, and we see that it's all turning back to the Western countries where they were really backing the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, and the rest. We see Sweden right now is handing out brochures to 4.8 million households, providing some information on what to do in case there is a war. And again, they want their people to be prepared, because again, what people see happening now around the world, everything is in flux, because at this point the move is to get the deep state, and it's going to look like it's in flux, just like North Korea. It seemed like, holy crap, we're going to war no matter what. The way the corporate media was spinning it, the way everyone was spinning it, it looked like war was inevitable. And then all of a sudden, it turned out to be peace. The same thing's going to happen in Iran. The same thing's going to happen in Syria. You can see they're moving the chess pieces in place. This is what is being done right now. Now let's move on to some of the Q drops here. Q put out some pictures of the sky, and basically Q is just verifying again that yes, this is the same Q who had control of the account all the way back in early November, because the images were taken in sequence, one after the other. Only the real Q would have that. And the real Q is showing everyone that, yeah, we are Q. And the reason for this is because there's going to be more attacks. And they're going to be coordinated attacks. And they're going to intensify on all sides. So their Q is preparing and showing everyone that, no, we are real. So once again, we can see that Q is the real deal. And when we move on into the additional breadcrumbs, we see post 1439. And Q went on to say, unity, not division. Last post was simply identification, reconfirming. Who is missing from the scheduled meeting? Rod Rosenstein. Who is Ed O'Callaghan? Acting. And then he has RR in brackets, bolded, and Ed in brackets, bolded, which is the kill box. Declassify, pain, enjoy the show. So we can see that Ed O'Callaghan is moving up into Rod Rosenstein's position. That's what is going to happen. So who is Edward O'Callaghan? He is an American Republican lawyer, former co-chief of the Terrorism and National Security Unit of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, who resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office in July of 2008 to join John McCain's presidential campaign, one of the three leaders of Sarah Palin's Alaska Truth Squad. O'Callaghan became the public face of Palin's legal pushback against ethics charges related to her former brother-in-law, the so-called Troopergate. From 2009 to 2011, he worked at the law firm Nixon Peabody. Then from 2011 to 2017, he was partner at the New York office of law Clifford Chance. In 2017, he became the principal deputy assistant attorney general to the National Security Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. Now, Q puts the kill box around Ed and around Rod Rosenstein. So, Ed O'Callaghan is the assistant to Rod Rosenstein. When Rod Rosenstein goes, Ed goes. And Serial Brain 2, he kind of lays this whole thing out. And this is what he says. So at the end of this mechanical succession process, Trump and Sessions will have their guy in number 2 and get to pick who to put in number 3. All of this without needing any Senate confirmation. So we have Schneiderman is gone. They're going to put a proper judge in place. We all know that Schneiderman is the former New York Attorney General who resigned after Allison Mack started singing. And if we look at Q post 1368, Allison Mack arrested. What date? When does a bird sing? Schneiderman resigned. What date? Coincidence? Well, here are the answers now. Allison Mack arrest date equals April 20th, 2018. Schneiderman resign date equals May 7th, 2018. The difference between these two is 17 days. What is the 17th letter of the alphabet? Q. You really think this is a coincidence? No. Q signed the resignation of New York Attorney General Schneiderman. Q is also telling you Preet Bharara is running to replace Schneiderman. Post Q 1374. What do you notice? They all drop hints they are considering future elected positions. Why? Claim interference, attack on opposition party, protection. Can you serve from jail? Whatever they try, Q is signaling that this New York Attorney General position is already filled by Sessions according to his plan. So what we're seeing right now is they're moving all the pieces into place, removing the deep state, removing those players out of their positions. They have to, because if you really wanted to bring everyone to trial right now and bring them all in, have all the evidence, with the FBI, with the deep state, in the FBI, in the Department of Justice, can you really, and with the judges, can you really have a fair trial? It's impossible. What do you need to do first? You need to clean it all out. You need to remove all these individuals. And how do you do this? Well, you need to set certain things up, have certain information come out, and it takes time, but you see it happening. Now, what's very interesting, and I came across this article in Yahoo, where the title says, Trump's aides deliberately inserting grammatical errors into his tweets to mimic his style. And they're saying that these misspellings, typos, and other linguistic errors, he's just a bad speller. He doesn't watch what he types, and his aides, they're just trying to mimic what he does. But we know that these are different codes for us. They mean something. And the corporate media is trying to move everyone away from this and trying to make it seem like, oh no, this is just a blundering idiot who's just misspelling everything. But there's always a reason, and Q actually told us, misspellings are important. It is done on purpose. So we can see everything is moving forward. Many people want it to happen tomorrow. I'm one of them. But I can see what they're trying to do here. And remember, the deep state has been with the government and set up shop. And they've been there for a very long time. And it goes deep. That's why it's the deep state. There's many layers, many people in there that have to be removed. And they're not just going to go quietly like, okay, we give. Yes, if you bring out dirt and you show what has been happening, many people are going to resign. Some people are going to have to be fired and let go. But these individuals, they're not going to give up. They've been doing this for too long. They know how this is played. And they believe that they're going to be back in power in no time. And they're going to try to keep their position, and they are not runners. They're going to stand tall because they believe that everyone is below them until there's a point in time where the authorities are coming to get them. That is the only time you're going to see these individuals flinch. And when I say flinch, I mean commit suicide or go missing, which means they're hiding, which most likely they'll be found. But up until that point, they're going to stand there and they're going to be like, there's nothing wrong. You can't touch me. Try. And this is the game they're playing. This is why Q keeps saying, enjoy the show. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.